Today, on February 14th, we're talking about love beyond romance, the kind that begins when we truly see. Love grows when we feel seen, safe, connected, and allowed to be curious both with ourselves and others. And healing doesn't happen in silence or isolation. It happens when love brings what's hidden into the light. Hi, I'm Candy, and I'm a mind body coach. I also use hypnotherapy, and I am deconstructing from evangelical Christianity. And I know how mindset shapes our behavior. So, in this series, I'm going to share my daily reflections from 3 different devotionals. The Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo, and that one's a little more spiritual, non-religious. Also, Jesus Calling by Sarah Young, which is a very modern Christian approach. And My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers, which is a very classic Christian angle. My goal is to help you see how each one of these devotionals or these day books might shape your mindset a little differently. And if you're into that kind of reflection, please like and follow for more. Let's get started. Today is February 14th, and in the Book of Awakening, Mark Nepo talks about really love at first sight. And since it's Valentine's Day in America, I thought this would be like a fitting place to talk about this. So he's talking about love at first sight and says at its deepest and most real level, the notion of love at first sight is spoken of in every spiritual tradition as the reward for being fully awake. In truth, it has never been about first meeting, though this can happen, but more about first coming into view. And I think what I got to take from that is that you can have a lot of love at first sight. And it is not talking about physical sight. It's when you really see a person, when you really know who they are. They let down their guard. They take down their masks. And I'm not talking about physical appearance at all. I'm talking about you're seeing their soul. You're seeing who they really are, the heart of them. And that can be like a real falling in love. It's deep. It's sweet and tender. And there's nothing between you. I've had this many times over with people, and it's beautiful. It's intoxicating. It ties you together in a way that you feel this connection that you don't just get by visual sight. Visual sight, we all change. Our physical bodies change. Every 7 years, we have all new cells, I think it is. So I just thought this was a beautiful way of understanding love at first sight, because some of us feel like maybe we'll never have that because we're looking for love in all the wrong places, or, but love is, and the first thing is love for self, getting to know who you are and kind of falling in love with yourself, getting to know you. I know that I didn't used to like to be alone with myself. I didn't like to be alone with my thoughts. Just didn't like myself because I was programmed that way. And when I began to dig through that stuff and work through those programs, I found that I actually really do. And even more than that, I like myself. I really like who I am. And once I saw myself, I fell in love. And it's not just with myself. It's not in a conceited way. It's in, I really like this person. And then I've had those opportunities so many times with others. But I first had to fall in love with myself. I had to begin to love myself. Stop trying to fix and just get to know who I am and accept that person. And then you can have lots of love at first sight moments. In Jesus Calling, the quotes I pulled were, walk boldly along the path of life, relying on your ever-present companion. It's referring to Jesus. Whenever you start to feel afraid, remember that I, meaning Jesus, am holding you by your right hand. Nothing can separate you from my presence. And I've said this before in this series, and I've said it in other places, that there's a scripture verse that says nothing can pluck you out of my hand. And it's talking about you, Christians or believers, I guess. This is how it gets interpreted, can be taken away from God's love. And I clung to that as I began to deconstruct from the Christianity I grew up in. I clung to, I'm safe so that I can explore. Because when someone feels safe, curiosity can happen. If you know that you're loved unconditionally, you're willing to be curious and explore, and because you know that love is not going anywhere no matter what. And a lot of us, we don't know that kind of love. We don't give that love to ourselves, and we really don't find that love given to us. And so when you can think this way, I think this is a very comforting daily read. But the problem I would have with it is placing it on a God that's separate from you, something that's outside of yourself. Like you're going to rely on something outside of yourself. No, that God is one with you. Like you're not separate. There's not a God that's separate that you can pull you apart in any way. Just like the water in the ocean, yeah, you can pull the water, a cup full of water out of the ocean, but it's still part of the ocean. It's made of the same thing the ocean is made of. They're not separate. Water is water. So it's very similar to that kind of idea. So I can see the comfort, but it doesn't line up with how Christians typically, that in my experience, operate. Because they will say, like, even just the idea of I'm holding you by your right hand gives me an image of separateness, like we're just attached by the hands. But I'm one with you. Would have been a better way of saying that. Nothing can separate me because we're one. And even saying nothing can separate you from my presence is probably because the author probably is imagining this God who is with you, but not one with you, not in you, even though she will likely say that, like, my spirit is in you or whatever, but you're one with the divine. You're not separate in any way. So that is why the presence, you can't be separated, because that's all there is source in all these different containers, all these different colors and, beings and everything that exists. That's how I would take that and spin it into a less Christian version, but a much more, I think, wholesome, loving version, even more so. And finally, for my utmost for his highest, I am really beginning to see the mindset that this book gives is not healthy. So the quote I pulled from the book this day is, "If you open your mouth in the dark, you will speak while in the wrong mood. Darkness is the time to listen. Don't talk to other people about it. Don't read books to find out the reason for the darkness. Just listen and obey." And this is absolutely terrible advice, toxic advice, to tell you to, when you are depressed and down, to not talk to somebody, to not, I mean, if you have to reach for a book that brings you comfort, that helps you to discover why you're depressed, just listen and obey. There are some people that are depressed that have mental illnesses and will receive messages that are not helpful. We have all heard of people who have harmed others, their own children even, because of depression. So this is just toxic, a toxic message. You need to talk. When you're in the dark, bring it to the light by talking about it, telling someone. That message is awful. It creates an awful mindset. It also tells you basically, like, don't talk to other people. It shames like therapy or just sharing where you're hurting and you need help. This is just garbage. I hate the message in today's reading in that book. So only one of them kind of talked about, love today. Figuring it was February 14th, I thought they all three might, but only one kind of touched on it. And it was a great message. First love is more like first awareness, first coming into view, like I'm really seeing you for who you are, and I love you. So I hope you feel that today. And if nobody's said it to you today, I love you. I'm grateful for you. Have a great day. Remember, you get to decide what you devote your thinking to today. You might not be able to control every thought that comes in, but you can definitely decide what you entertain. And whether it comes from something I've said today or something completely different, choose wisely and set an intention that truly benefits you and those around you. And if you found any value here today, don't forget to like and follow. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and let's keep our minds on what helps us love ourselves and each other a little bit better every day.